Hi everybody. You well? Let me finish setting up my lights. Okay. Welcome to the growth space. My name is Myron Mikali and I'm super excited to have you today. Um I would love to have as many of you join me because it's gonna be an amazing opportunity. Now just give me a few minutes as I wait majority of you. Okay, I'm waiting for people online because I don't want to have this conversation alone. So if you can join me, that would be amazing. Am I going to get support today? Honestly, I'm waiting for you guys to join me. Okay. I don't want to waste so much time trying to wait for people to join. Let me just share. And then after I share, we go straight into content creation. So I won't be bothering us with so much. So just give me a minute. I would love to share this. Hi guys. Yeah, so I've posted. So I think that we are good. We can begin, Sindio. Okay. I'm just gonna begin officially again so that in case someone is joining me, they will find me already here beginning, right? So my name is Marian Mikali. I'm super excited to have a lot of you guys join us today. I'm super excited. New Year, happy 2026. You know, it is a good day, and I'm sure that a lot of us are enjoying our day. So, today we're talking about emotional intelligence for everyday life, and this is probably to help a lot of us. Viewers to understand, recognize, and begin practicing emotional intelligence in our daily decisions, relationships, and of course, work without being overwhelmed. Because a lot of us tend to get there. So, this is why we are doing this today. And I just want to ask you a question. Have you ever reacted emotionally and then later you thought, what? I shouldn't have handled that. I wish I would have handled it better. So, today we are going to unlock emotional intelligence and the skills that of course changes how we live, love, and lead. Aya, so I'm just going to ask you a question. Okay, this is the growth space where we are working on growing ourselves as individuals and also people who are learning how to become better people in our lives. Okay, so the growth space is a space where we are trying to change, of course, the way people perceive us and also how we perceive ourselves. We are growing who we are, we are developing ourselves, we want to become better, so that every other time when we encounter people, they see a different version of us, and they will see that we have grown, we have changed, we have become better. So that is why we are here in the growth space. Okay, this channel is about personal growth, it is about emotional maturity, of course, it's about inner clarity, and just making sure that everything that you are about is maturing, is growing, is becoming better. So when we're talking about emotional intelligence, which is also called EQ, it is not about just being emotional, it is about emotionally being aware, and emotionally being wise, and emotionally being in control of your emotions. Okay, which is very, very important. So emotional intelligence affects our relationships, it affects our confidence, it affects our leadership, it affects our parenting, it affects our marriage, it affects our work, it affects our mental health. And thus, if we are not in tune with it, or if we don't grow it, or we don't control it, then it will affect all these sectors of our lives, and we need to be very sure that it is very well taken care of. Research shows that emotional awareness, our emotional intelligence often predicts success more than the IQ, which is the like your intellectual nini, your intellectual what. Hey, yeah. So EQ is often able to predict success as compared to IQ. Okay, let's break it down into very practical, easy, everyday practices that we can do and start. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you, what emotional if someone is to ask me what is emotional intelligence and why does it matter? Okay, emotional intelligence constitutes of five core habits, and one of them is self-awareness, the second one is self-regulation, the other one is motivation, the other one is empathy, and the fifth one is social skills. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize emotions. Okay, it is the ability to understand these emotions, and it is the ability to respond wisely instead of reacting impulsively. Okay, so I will give everyday examples that we have. So it's of course responding calmly instead of shouting, especially for people who have been offended by someone. It is about understanding why you feel irritated instead of just blabbing, and blasting people and blaming other people. It is also navigating the conflicts that are there without destroying the relationship, because I know that majority of us that are in relationships, whether it is a romantic one, whether it is a friendship, that relationship, of course, it has its conflict. So emotional intelligence is you being able to navigate conflicts that will be there when you and your friends fight, when you and your friends have issues, you knowing that by there's a challenge, fighting that challenge, of course, and that conflict, and not destroying the relationship. How good are you at navigating some of these challenges and making sure that, of course, these challenges do not affect the friendship at the end of the day, or the relationship that you have? If it is a conflict with your siblings, how are you handling that, so that you make sure that by the way you're not destroying the relationship that you have with your siblings, but rather making sure that you're navigating it well? So why this matters is because it will help improve your communication. It reduces the conflict, as we have said, because if you're mature enough and you're able to handle yourself and also respond, as much as people offend you and are mean and are whatever, you can actually reduce conflict by responding wisely. And sometimes you can reduce conflict by not responding altogether. So I'm just going to give you an example here. I was live on one of my channels 3 days ago, and this person just came and he was insisting speak in Swahili, and I'm like, I can't do that, because of course I'm trying to not only talk to people that are Kenyan who understand by the Swahili, and also maybe other people in East Africa that can understand Swahili, but I'm also talking to international people who actually do not understand Swahili. Okay, and because it is a live session, I cannot have subtitles, of course, and if they are there that will join in terms of like just going on live, They will not translate the Swahili. So you will find that I will be speaking, and probably who I am also targeting, they will not understand me. So I won't speak Swahili because of those reasons. And this guy is insisting, speak Swahili. And I'm like, no, I can't because of whatever, because of now the reasons that I've stated earlier. But that person did not understand, to a point that he went on to my channel and he was saying that he was going to flag me, he was going to report me for I don't know whatever reasons. But you see, he has his opinion. He wants me to speak Swahili. But I cannot do that because, again, it's not just him that I am coming to meet and need for. I am also coming to discuss other people. And of course, I felt so bad initially, to a point that he even called me stupid, and he was just there ranting and speaking all manner of things, and he was really getting on my nerves. But then I realized that, you know what, I at first I deleted his comments, and then it hit me like, why am I even deleting? Because that is an opinion of one of the people that I talk to, that probably is a subscriber. And even if he's not a subscriber, because he's joined and he's in this particular live, I can actually use him as an audience. And because he's now on the negative, like people who don't like me, I can use him so that he can be a good point of contact to tell me if the content that I'm doing is good. So I stopped. I had deleted one of his comments, then I undeleted it so that people can actually see it, and I continued having my session, and it was wonderful and it was amazing. The conflict reduced because of this. Now, because I knew who it was, when I was seeing the name and whatever he was writing, especially when I was reading comments, I was trying very hard to avoid him, and I avoided him until I finished the live. So you can actually make sure that the communication, so when you have emotional intelligence, it is so easy for you to actually avoid conflict. Because I was this second, like this, away from calling him names, and just being there and ranting and all that. But then I was like, no, he's important, whether or not he's giving me the kind of feedback I want, but nonetheless, he's a very important person. So I did not respond in a way probably that a lot of people would expect. So it is very important for you to have emotional intelligence and know where you are, who you are, and what you stand for. Personally, I don't stand for abuse. I don't like cyberbullying. I felt like he was bullying me. But then again, I was in a place where, you know what, I choose the highway, and I don't want conflict. And it actually works. Sometimes it will hurt yourself, it will hurt your ego, it will hurt you as a person. But then you're like, okay, just because I'm avoiding conflict, I'll shut up. A lot of people tend to think that when you have high emotional intelligence and you're avoiding conflict, they think that you're not tough, that you're very shy, that you're probably very timid. But that's not the case. It's just that, you know what, I don't want to fight, I don't feel the need of having conflict, especially if I can avoid it. So of course, emotional intelligence is very important. The other thing it does, it actually builds emotional safety, which is very important for a lot of us, because we need to be in a space where we feel like, you know what, my comments, my feedback, my voice is heard and it is respected. Okay, so that safety, knowing that sometimes even when you say things that are off, people will still love you and celebrate you. The other thing why it matters, it is because it strengthens leadership and trust, which is very important, especially for people who are in leadership. Once you know that people can trust you, and once people know they can trust you, it is so easy for you to lead them, because they'll be so loyal to you. Okay. I'm not hungry, I promise, and I'm not sleepy. I'm just tired. So your life improves when your emotions stop controlling you. And a lot of us need to hear this, because I remember I was solving a conflict between a couple, and the guy was saying, you know what, it is this lady, she really offends me, she makes me beat her. I don't want to do it, but I find myself doing it. And this was very offensive, of course, for the lady, because now her, she doesn't want to be beaten. She's there saying, you know what, I can imagine, because personally I'm very outspoken. I don't want you to beat me just because I disagree with you. I want you to reason with me and tell me why, by the way, your opinion or your ideas are better. So instead of beating someone down, why don't you sit them down and explain, you know what? this is the decision that I want us to go with. As much as you're the man of the house, can you try and explain to this lady, by the way, this is the reason why I'm deciding that we're going that route, right? Instead of just you being there and forcing issues and forcing yourself in the life of that particular person, like, hey, they have their own mind, they can reason, right? Okay, on to the point number two. How self-awareness improves decision making. Now, what is self-awareness in the first place? It is noticing what you feel, why you feel it, and how it affects your choices. Okay, self-awareness just being in a place where you know what, I understand that right now probably I am super mad, and that is what you're feeling. Then the other question you will be having when you're self-aware is knowing why you feel it. So I am super mad. Why am I mad? Because probably this person did this to me. Then of course, because they did that to you and you're mad, the other thing that causes you to say that you're self-aware is knowing how it will affect your choices. So I'm about to make a choice and I'm super hungry, I'm super mad. So what choices will I make based on the fact that I know I am super mad, and I am mad because someone probably took me for granted, or they did something that they shouldn't have done just because they feel they could. Okay, that is self-awareness. So it is knowing what you feel, knowing why you feel it, and of course the last one is now being in that place of knowing how it will affect the choices that you will make. Okay, so the dangers of this is that unaware emotions causes you to have impulsive decisions. Once you do not know, by the way, this is what I'm going through and this is what I'm feeling, of course your way of thinking and the decisions that you will make are very impulsive. But even as I am, the other thing is also when the emotion is hidden, you will continue to make repetitive mistakes, because you do not even know what is going on. Okay, that is the dangers of you not being self-aware. Why? I'm gonna give an example of the dangers of you being not self-aware. Okay, you lacking self-awareness. So some of the dangers, example, you're gonna make decisions while angry, and of course when a lot of us, we know when we make decisions out of anger, we usually make all the wrong decisions. The other thing is you're gonna say yes, or to things that you probably should have meant no, especially when you're trying to please people. So you need to be self-aware to a point of knowing, by the way, you know what, I will say yes, I will please you, but the problem is I will not probably be able to meet that deal at the end of the day. And of course, because I do not want to not meet that deal, I have to make sure that what I say no. So it's very important to be self-aware. So in environments where you're saying yes, I know of young women and young men who will say yes to peer pressure and a lot of things that they shouldn't be saying yes to. And then when the shit hits the fan, they're the first people to be affected. I've heard of girls who are saying, you know what, it is the first time I said yes to unprotected sex. It is actually the first time I was having sex, and because I was just there saying yes instead of saying no because of the circumstance, I ended up being pregnant. So people will always tend to judge you based on that one mistake, and it's because you probably said yes a place where you should have said no. Sindo. And a lot of us, of course, will say will be staying in unhealthy relationships because we do not have self-awareness. So how do you do that? It is for you to practically pause and practice. Pause, take a minute, name the emotions that you're feeling, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? How am I feeling? Okay, you cannot manage what you do not acknowledge. If you do not acknowledge the fact that, you know what, I'm sad, or I'm happy, or I'm deprived sexually, or there's this and this that I'm feeling, if you do not name that particular feeling and if you don't acknowledge it, then there's no way that you will find a practical help for that particular problem. So I'm going to use something like you being sexually deprived. Once you know that there's someone who is depriving you sexually, it is easy for you to like be now sit back and ask yourself, you know what, why are they depriving me? You now become very cautious, and you're like, okay, they're depriving me probably because I upset them, probably I am not very good at this thing, so I don't make them happy, I don't please them. So what do I need to do? So if it's about them being upset with you, it's you going and apologizing, and then you can find your sexual satisfaction. If it is a matter of you not pleasing them, then you can go now and be like, okay, I really want us to have sex, I probably feel like I'm not not satisfied and I don't satisfy you, or I don't do it right, so how would you want me to do it? And then of course from there, not only are you helping yourself, but you're also helping the other person, because they will be finding the thing that they want. So what else we are going to talk about is understanding and managing emotions effectively. So emotions are not bad, by the way. They are a very good thing. They are signals that will help us, but they are not instructions. Okay, they are signals to tell you that probably there's danger here, or there's fun here, or there's this. So signals, but not instructions. Okay, so common emotional traps that a lot of us find is that we are suppressing our emotions, which is not very good. We are exploding emotionally, which is of course not good, which is a result of suppressing emotions for a long time. We also spiritualize we spiritualize emotions away. So a lot of us are there using our scriptures and our bibles to spiritualize away those emotions, which is not the case. You're supposed to actually walk through them and make sure that you master them, so that you know how to handle them. The other thing, common emotional trap that we do is blaming others for how we feel. It is not always about other people, it is a you thing. That's why we're talking about self awareness as we began. You being aware of your emotions. Stop blaming everybody else, and you're not taking responsibility, you as a person as well. So the other thing is healthy emotional regulation tools that you can actually make sure that you use is naming the emotions correctly, which if it is anger, if it is disappointment, if it is fear, just make sure that you know what, I am naming whatever I am feeling, and it is that. After you name it, then breathing before, of course, responding, especially after you have known that I am upset. So if I know I am upset, you just breathing gives you some minutes to think through a response that probably you would have given while you are upset. Okay, yeah, so breathe before responding, then creating space before. Ooh, I'm super tired. Then creating space before reacting, like you just creating space, so that you make sure that even if you are to react in a bad way, you probably won't hurt anyone, and you also have a lot of space to work with, so it is so easy for you to like uh work backward. The other thing is expressing emotions without attacking. I feel like emotional maturity is responding wisely, not reacting loudly. I am the type that reacts loudly, but I am learning emotional maturity. Of course, it's not an easy journey, especially when someone has offended you and you want to shout and you want to loudly speak out that do not know what umeni bo, you're such a bo, you are making me feel like, or whatever. You just want to express yourself, but loudly. Okay, you want to attack that particular person, but expressing your emotions can be, do you know what you've done? It's, you have bored me. I don't have to shout it for you to understand it. But of course, emotional maturity isn't easy. Majority of us have not understood it. Majority of us have not grasped it. And of course, because we haven't, it becomes even harder for we that are learning from probably people who are older than us, because then they did not have that emotional intelligence. They did not pass it down. They did not teach us how to have emotional intelligence until now. For those that are alive and they are the ones that we are looking up to, they're our role models, they do not have emotional intelligence. So of course it can be very difficult for you to say that, oh, I am learning from other people around me, because majority do not have it. So it is a matter of you personally just deciding, you know what, I'm changing the trend. My parents used to scream, so I don't want to be screaming at my children, or my relationship, I don't want to be screaming at my spouse, so I'm just gonna learn, right? And you pick it up from there. So, empathy, which is connecting deeply with others, is very important. Empathy is the ability to understand and feel what another person may be experiencing without, of course, judging them. I know that a lot of us can actually understand what other people are doing, can feel what other people are going through, but the challenge comes in where we judge others. So, if you are empathetic, it means that you will understand them, you will feel them, but you will not judge them. Okay, why is empathy important and why does it matter? It builds trust, of course, if it's a relationship, a friendship, even However relationship you want to name it, it builds trust. The other thing is strength. It strengthens marriages and friendships, especially for people who are together, because you know what, the bond between the two of you becomes deeper if you empathize with one another. If you're friends and your friend is going through a challenge, an issue, if you empathize with them, then of course it strengthens the friendship. Cinder, do you guys agree with me? Okay. The other thing is it improves parenting and leadership. And this one is very important because as a parent, you're a leader, whether you like it or not. You're a leader to your children. You're an example to your children, and they will emulate some of the things that you do. So it is very important to make sure that you empathize with them instead of just all the time beating them up, instead of all the time just being upset at them. It is you understanding and feeling what they're going through as your children, and then having without being judgmental. Okay. Yeah. So why is empathy what empathy is not? So I think a lot of us confuse empathy with agreeing with everything other people are doing. That is not empathy. Empathy is not losing boundaries. You need to keep your boundaries as much as you're empathetic. Boundaries is not fixing people. Fixing people is you trying to cause them to be what you want them to be. That is not empathy. As we have said, empathy is understanding a person, feeling what they're feeling, and not being judgmental. But that does not mean that you agree with everything they do, does not mean that you lose your boundaries, does not mean you fix them. Okay. All right. So how do you practically or how do you practice empathy, or how do you grow it? The first thing you do is you listen to understand that particular person and not necessarily to reply. I know this cannot apply, especially for people who are very impatient. Empathy is not a thing that comes so easy for impatient people. So you have to listen, and sometimes you're not listening because you want to just understand. You are listening to understand that person. Okay. The other thing is to validate feelings before correcting. Make sure that you acknowledge that, you know what, I understand you're upset, I feel that you're upset, or I feel like you feel I know you feel a type of way, but that is not how probably you do abcd. So acknowledge the fact that it's okay for them to respond the way they're responding, especially for us that have children. Nowadays they're watching a lot of tv, and they are learning how to respond probably from the movies and the cartoons they are watching. But it's very important to acknowledge and tell them, you know what, I know that I have upset you because I've told you stop watching the tv because I need to watch, or your hours for watching tv are over. It is allowed for you to feel bad, but it is not allowed for you to do 1 2 3 4 5, because that is now wrong. Okay. So yeah, so it's more or less just understanding, validating the fact that their feelings are very okay, and then now correcting. Cindy, and also, how do you practice empathy is asking the right correct questions, because some of you will just ask the wrong questions, and that of course affects the empathy bit. So people don't always want solutions, they want to feel like they are seen, once they speak. Counseling, by the a lot of us that have done psychology and are counselors, you will notice that even our what is it our careers are based on just sitting down and letting someone talk. They will come to your office, spend a whole hour, and one thing that we learned, that I know I picked from school, is that I'm not supposed to come directly and tell a client that this is the way, walk ye in it. That is not it. I won't come and tell you try this method. No, it is me asking you, what do you think you should do? Yes, you've told me the problem. I have been listening, I have been empathizing and understanding you, and I feel you. So, okay, out of the many things that we have discussed, what do you think is a solution to this problem? And then they will tell you, and your work is to write down all of them. And then now you will ask that person, out of the solutions that you have given me as the psychologist or as the counselor, which one do you think we can actually like try and see if it works? And then you can try. If the first one, the second one, the third one does not work, then of course you keep on changing and shifting them until you go through all the list, and then you sit them down again and you ask them again, do you think that the solutions you gave are working? No, probably not, because we have tried all of them and they are not. So what else can you offer as a solution? So the one thing I learned in psychology is that you do not ever give a person the way forward. Because if you tell them, I think you should do this, and then they do that thing and it doesn't work, they will come back to you and be like, you lied to me, or your your advice is not solid or something like that. But once they come up with the ideas, not only is it easy for them to follow through with the solutions, it is also like a way of you as a counselor to avoid getting the backlash when the solution that that person has followed has not worked. So, and I know that in churches it is done the total opposite. Pastors will tell you, no, do this, as they are doing their counseling, they actually like straight up tell you this is the way, right? And you see that is different, because them now we tend to say that they have the spiritual backing of the Holy Spirit. But that is why it is very important to make sure you're going to the right church, right? Because if you're going to the wrong one, then of course the direction that you will be given will be the wrong one, and of course that can actually affect your entire livelihood. Okay, so I'm gonna discuss daily emotional intelligence exercises that you can practice. So the first one is emotional check-in, where you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Just being in that space of asking myself, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling like a failure? Am I feeling successful? Am I feeling whatever? Am I feeling tired? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Just ask yourself, how am I feeling? The other thing is trigger journal. Just make sure you note what triggers your strong emotions. Like if there is that thing that can be done to you that will trigger you in a way that you yourself will not have the control of how to respond, write those ones and make sure that you notice them and you learn them. Because once you know, then once you're seeing someone who is trying to trigger you, you run, you escape, you leave. Or now that you know that you're being triggered, then you exercise emotional intelligence, where now you breathe before you respond. Because hey, if you are to respond the way you will respond, once you are triggered, you will massacre that person. Okay, the other thing is empathy poses. What might they be feeling? You ask yourself, what might they be feeling? Because sometimes I feel like a lot of people just speak things because they're in a bad space themselves, and because they do not have that emotional intelligence that we're talking about, they just blabber out things, they will say things, they will recommend solutions, and you're there thinking, who gave you the audacity to come to my face and discuss my life the way you're discussing it? It's like you have been given the right, but because you are trying to become the bigger person, because you have emotional intelligence, you now start practicing empathy. And empathy is what we're talking about, like asking yourself, what is this person feeling? Might they be responding the way they're responding to me because of something they have gone through, or something I have done, so that it is easier even for you to respond, right? The other thing is respond delay. You delay from answering so that you make sure that you are really emotionally aware. So wait before replying emotionally. You sit back, you ask yourself, they have said that. So what am I going to tell them? Yeah. So you delayed responding. Not that you're daft, it's just that you don't want to say something that will hurt them, that will come and bite you tomorrow. So you want to be very sure whatever you're saying is emotionally intelligent. Okay. The other thing is evening reflection. Of course, as I've said, what emotion showed up for you today during the day? You're analyzing your entire day, of course, and how did I respond? Did I respond well or badly? I started by asking you guys, have you ever had this opportunity where you have said something and then later you're sitting down and saying, oh my goodness, why did I say that? Why did I say that? I should have probably used better words and everything. So this one is very important as an evening reflection, because once you do that, of course, it helps you to grow yourself and better yourself, so that come the other time that that you have found yourself in such a situation, you respond better. Small daily practices create emotional mastery over time. So of course, because you're doing this on a daily basis, and of course on a consistent daily dose, it makes it so easy in future for you to actually master your emotions, and you become so good over time. Remember, sawa. So I'm just gonna ask questions here. I know that no one is live right now, But in case you get to watch this at a later date, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever reacted emotionally and regretted it afterwards or later? If you have, let us know. What did you do? What did you say? Let us know so that we can learn from you. Then, which emotion do you struggle with managing the most? I know that we have a lot of emotions that vary for different people, and for all of us, there's one emotion that actually we struggle with. Probably we are not very good at mastering it, and it has probably something that really affects us, and how, of course, you are struggling and managing that particular thing. Yeah. Hey, hey, today I'm super tired. So I'm just gonna say this before we conclude. Emotional intelligence, of course, is very important. But I want you to share one situation where emotional intelligence helped you or could have helped you. Okay? Let me repeat. Share one situation where emotional intelligence helped you or could have helped you. Sasa, I've asked you if you have ever reacted emotionally and regretted it later. Then I've asked you again, what emotion do you struggle with in terms of like you do not know how to manage it, or have you learned over time to manage? And then the last question I'm going to ask, or a comment that I would want you to give me again, is one situation that by the way you think that emotional intelligence could have helped you, or oh, or helped you. It could have helped you, so you did not have it, you did not use it, or you feel like it helped you because you had it. Let me know. Right? Okay, respond, guys. Help me. Oh, help me here, help me here, help me here. Oh, help a girl. So I'm just gonna read 5 questions that I felt a lot of people asked, although I know that the answers I've already mentioned up there, but it is easier when I answer it as a question because it is easy for you to guys to like be, oh yeah, that's my question, right? So I'm gonna respond to 5 questions very quickly before we conclude this live. The first one is, what is emotional intelligence? A lot of us do not know that. So it is the ability to recognize, right, to understand, to manage and respond wisely to emotions, yours and of course for other people. That is emotional intelligence. I'm going to repeat. It is the ability to recognize, understand, manage and respond wisely to emotions that are yours and also for the other person. Okay? How do I grow empathy? Aha, empathy is you understanding, feeling the emotions of the other person, and having no judgment. See, that's what we said. So, of course, you can grow empathy by listening without interruption. So, you allow this person to talk, even when they're saying things that probably do not make sense, and you want to interject and ask questions or probably make them clarify. But allow them to speak. So listen without interrupting them, validate their feelings, and be like, okay, now I understand why. I understand why you're upset or whatever. I understand why you would feel this way. I understand why, yeah, you get, yeah, you validate the feelings of what they are telling you. I understand why now you're saying that you feel rejected. And then either you can help now them see another side of that particular conversation, but make sure you validate their feelings. Never correct without validating them. That is empathy. And then lastly is to seek to understand before judging, right? Seek to understand, even if it means asking 3 to 4 questions that seemingly are similar. Just make sure that you are listening. We have said you're listening without interruption. Once you listen and you have heard whatever you have not understood, remember you're trying to understand this person, you're trying to understand their emotions. So make sure you ask as many questions as possible so that you do not judge them, because you need to understand them before you judge. Okay. The other thing is, how do I handle emotional stress? Identify the emotions as we have said, then regulate your response, and lastly create healthy outlets. I know that a lot of us have emotions that we cannot handle. It's not just stress alone. Emotional stress is very common to all of us. So you have to make sure that you understand and identify the emotions. And when I say identify the emotions, emotional stress can be caused by so many things. It can be caused by a lot of things. So make sure you understand the emotions, identify the emotions that are causing you to be stressed. Then regulate your responses in terms of, a lot of us, when we are stressed, we tend to look for things to do, or we do things that probably we will regret, what we are talking about. So make sure that you regulate your responses, because you don't want to regret later, Sindo. Especially because it is caused by emotional stress. You did not want to do it, you were just stressed, and it's so hard to explain yourself when you have already hurt people, when you have done something, and then now you're trying to let other people understand. They will be like, why did you not think, or why did you not just keep quiet, or go there and sit alone, so you need to regulate your responses. Then the other thing is, now what we're talking about, creating healthy outlets, especially when you're stressed. Instead of binge eating, instead of binge watching TV or movies, you can decide actually to go and do exercises. That is a healthy outlet. You are using that stress to work out, which of course will be good for your body and for your health. And if you have targets to lose weight, so it's a plus and it's a win for you. Another way you can create healthy outlets is probably creativity. I know that there are people who are stressed, and instead of now deciding they will do crazy things, they're very musical. That is the time they will create their own music. That is the time they will dance a lot, because they're very good dancers. That is the time they will act their best, so they can go and just actually act. And you see, it's another way of just being creative, instead of responding in a bad way, right? I am. What is EQ more important? Is EQ more important than IQ? So EQ is emotional intelligence. The other one is about your brain. IQ. So IQ may open doors, but EQ determines how far you go and how well you relate with people. Okay, emotional intelligence will open doors where, as much as intellectual intelligence is very important, because of course now that one determines how good you are at something, or how well you understand things. Emotional EQ is how you relate with the people that IQ will open doors for, right? So it is very important to make sure that your EQ is very okay. It's not that it is more important, it's just that it will help you to ensure that you are very well sorted, right? So, how do I set emotional boundaries? You set emotional boundaries by honoring your feelings, communicating clearly, and not taking responsibility for others' emotions. You have to be very, 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 very sure that, by the way, I'm not going to take advantage, or I'm not going to take credit for other people's emotional uh, what their emotions. Like, if they are the ones behaving this particular way, they are behaving that way because of themselves. Whether you're the one who has offended them, they need emotional intelligence to respond wisely. So do not always take the responsibility for other people's emotions, right? Yeah, and that has been our emotional intelligence class. How was it? Did you learn something? Did you enjoy? Amazing. So I'm just going to encourage you to journal if you feel like the need to. If you feel the need to do self reflection, just sit down, while you're doing this video, do self reflection and be like, okay, I need to learn about my emotional intelligence. Then, of course, grow without shame. It is very important to make sure that growth for you is something that you're not shamed to do. I'm promising you, like, even while I started also this channel, and I didn't start it a long time ago, I was so scared of growth, but I am in that space where I want to grow. So emotional intelligence is not about perfection, it is about progress, and growth starts with awareness. So make sure that you're aware of your emotions, then from there, of course, progress. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being with me all this time. That 40 something also consider subscribing the growth space. I am super excited to have you in this channel. God bless you and do you well, and see you on the next live, right? Bye bye. Charas.